Beyond physical domination, the subjugation of language and belief. Colonization, in its most brutal form, seizes land and resources. It imposes foreign rule through military might. Yet, the true depths of its cruelty lie in its insidious reach into the soul of a people. This is the colonization of language and religion. It is a conquest that seeks to erase history, silence traditions, and redefine the very identity of the colonized. The colonizer understands that true control requires more than just physical dominance. It demands the subjugation of minds and spirits. By replacing indigenous languages and beliefs with their own, colonizers aim to sever the ties that bind a community to its past, its culture, and to itself. This is the essence of cultural genocide, a slow and silent eradication of a people's heritage. The consequences of this linguistic and religious imperialism are devastating and far-reaching. When people are forced to abandon their native tongue, they lose more than just words. They lose the nuances of their culture, the wisdom embedded in their stories, and the ability to fully express their unique worldview. Language is not merely a tool of communication, it is the very fabric of thought, the vessel of identity. The reverse Tower of Babel imposing linguistic conformity. The biblical story of the Tower of Babel illustrates the divisive power of linguistic diversity. However, colonization employs a reverse strategy, imposing linguistic conformity as a means of control. By forcing the colonized to adopt the language of the colonizer, a hierarchy is established. The colonizer's language becomes the language of power, of education, of advancement. Indigenous languages are relegated to the private sphere, deemed inferior and irrelevant. This linguistic hierarchy has profound and lasting impacts on the colonized society. It creates a class division where fluency in the colonizer's language becomes a marker of social standing and economic opportunity. Those who cannot or will not assimilate are marginalized, excluded from the corridors of power, and denied access to resources. Moreover, the imposition of a foreign language disrupts the transmission of knowledge across generations. Traditional skills, cultural practices, and historical narratives, often passed down orally, face the risk of being lost. The colonized community becomes disconnected from its roots, its sense of identity fragmented. Spiritual conquest, supplanting indigenous faiths. Alongside linguistic imperialism, colonizers often employ religion as a tool of cultural assimilation. Indigenous belief systems, often intricately interwoven with daily life and cultural practices, are dismissed as primitive or pagan. In their place, the colonizers introduce their own faiths, often through a combination of persuasion and coercion. The imposition of foreign religions has profound consequences for the spiritual and cultural landscape of colonized societies. Traditional rituals and ceremonies, often deeply rooted in a connection to the land and ancestors, are suppressed or eradicated. Sacred sites are desecrated or transformed to align with the colonizer's belief system. Furthermore, the introduction of new religious doctrines often disrupts existing social structures and power dynamics. Traditional leaders, often holding spiritual authority, are undermined. New hierarchies emerge, with religious leaders from the colonizing culture assuming positions of influence. Echoes of colonization, language and religion as tools of assimilation. The legacy of linguistic and religious colonization continues to cast a long shadow over the world today. Many former colonies still grapple with the dominance of colonial languages in education, government and public life. Indigenous languages struggle for survival, their speakers dwindling, their rich cultural heritage at risk of being lost forever. Similarly, the impact of religious imposition is still felt in many parts of the world. Traditional belief systems, though often resilient, continue to face pressure from dominant religions. The syncretism that often emerges, a blending of indigenous and imposed faiths, while sometimes a form of resistance, can also further blur the lines of cultural identity. The struggle to reclaim linguistic and religious heritage is a fight for decolonization itself. It is a struggle to restore stolen identities, to revive silenced voices, and to reclaim the right to cultural self-determination. It is a reminder that true liberation requires not just political independence, but also the freedom to speak one's own language and to honor the beliefs of one's ancestors.